There was a time when I'd wake up feeling like the day held endless possibilities. But by the time the sun set, I'd be left wondering, where did the time go? Maybe you know that feeling too, like time just slips through your fingers. Every night, I told myself tomorrow would be different. But tomorrow looked exactly the same as yesterday, scattered, wasted, disappointing. I didn't want to admit it at first, but I was losing 6 hours every single day. 6 hours of mindless scrolling, overthinking, procrastination, switching tasks. That's 42 hours a week. Almost 2 full days. Gone. What could I have built with that time? What dream did I delay? Honestly, I was frustrated. I hated feeling stuck in my own loop. If you've ever caught yourself saying, "I'll start later," or "I deserve a break," only to look up and see it's already 4 p.m. and you haven't started anything. You're not lazy. You're not broken. You're just caught in a trap you didn't know existed. And the worst part? The trap feels safe. It feels familiar. Until you realize, it's quietly robbing you of the life you could be living. I remember this one Sunday clearly. I was lying in bed, my phone in hand. Flipping between TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, not even enjoying it. Just escaping. Hiding from a life that felt too big to handle. I felt this heaviness in my chest, a mix of guilt and hopelessness. I thought, is this it? Is this how my story goes? That night, something snapped. I knew I couldn't keep doing this. Not because someone told me to change. Not because of some productivity guru. But because I couldn't stand the regret anymore. The regret of unused time. Unwritten ideas. Unfinished dreams. This isn't just a video about time management. It's about reclaiming your life. This is about the hours you didn't know were stolen, and how to get them back. Because I did. I stopped wasting 6 hours a day, and you can too. But first I have to take you back. Back to the beginning, to the ordinary world I thought I'd never escape. Before anything changed, my life looked normal on the outside. I had a phone, Wi-Fi, comfort, a roof over my head, all the basic stuff. But inside? I was drifting. Going through the motions. Stuck on repeat. Every day, I'd wake up thinking, today's the day I get things done. And by 11 a.m., I'd already be deep in YouTube rabbit holes or scrolling reels. I'd sit at my desk, open my laptop, and somehow end up watching videos about people being productive, while I wasn't doing a single thing myself. I wasn't lazy. I just didn't have control. I didn't even realize how bad it was. I'd jump between 12 tabs, 5 apps, and 100 thoughts, and still get nothing done. Everything felt urgent, and yet nothing really got finished. Even when I wasn't on my phone, my mind would wander. I'd start a task, then think, wait, I should check my email, or maybe message that friend back. And suddenly, 30 minutes were gone. But the worst part wasn't the wasted time, it was how I felt about myself afterward. I'd lie in bed at night, staring at the ceiling, asking myself, what did I even do today? Here's what my ordinary world really looked like. I didn't know what my priorities were. Everything felt equally important. I constantly felt behind, even though I wasn't really doing anything. I confused being busy with being productive. I was always tired. Mentally foggy. Distracted. I blamed myself, but I didn't understand the systems working against me. Because modern life is designed to steal your focus. Every app, every ping, every notification is fighting for your attention. And if you don't protect your time, they will win. I didn't know how to say no, not to others, but to the urge to distract myself. I let my phone, my moods, my impulses run the show. And in this fog, big dreams started to feel small. I had ideas, goals, passions, but they got buried under the noise. I told myself, I'll do it later. But later never came. Just endless loops of starting, stopping, feeling guilty. If this sounds familiar, know this, you're not alone. So many people are stuck in the comfortable cage. You're not in pain, but you're not growing either. And slowly, that cage starts to shrink, until you can't breathe. But change always begins with awareness. And that awareness came to me in the form of a breakdown. One that I'll tell you about next, because sometimes you need to fall before you can finally learn to rise. It didn't happen all at once. There was no dramatic breakdown, no loud crash. Just a slow, creeping sense that something inside me was quietly breaking. It started with little things, forgetting what day it was, feeling numb all the time. I stopped feeling excited about anything, even the stuff I used to love. Music, writing, hanging out with people, even that felt like too much effort. I kept brushing it off, telling myself it was just a lazy week, or burnout. But weeks turned into months, and I was still floating through each day. Barely present, always tired, endlessly distracted, and strangely empty. Every night, I'd make a list of things to do tomorrow. And every night after that, I'd rewrite the exact same list. At some point, I realized I wasn't just wasting time. I was wasting me. All the potential, the ideas, the energy, it was all slipping through my fingers. And no one around me could really tell, because on the surface, I was functioning. But inside I felt like a ghost, living the same day over and over again. You know what hurt the most? It wasn't the missed deadlines or failed routines. It was waking up one morning and realizing I didn't recognize myself anymore. I wasn't the person I used to be. I wasn't creating. I wasn't dreaming. I was reacting to life, not living it. Just one notification, one scroll, one excuse at a time. One night, I sat on the floor of my room in complete silence. No music, no screen, no distractions, just me. And I asked the scariest question I'd ever asked myself. If I keep living like this, where will I be in 5 years? And the answer? It terrified me. I saw a future version of me, still stuck, still scrolling. Still saying, I'll do it later. Still drowning in good intentions, with nothing to show for it. Still wondering, what if I had started? And that image shook me to my core. Because in that moment, I realized I wasn't just afraid of failing. I was afraid of never trying. Afraid that comfort would steal my whole life without ever making a sound. That's the danger of the silent crisis. It doesn't scream, it whispers. And if you don't listen, it quietly steals everything. That night, I promised myself something. I didn't need to become perfect. I didn't need a perfect plan. But I needed to start. To fight back. To take one small step out of the fog, even if it was messy, slow, or scary. Because the cost of staying stuck was simply too high. After that night on the floor, something shifted in me. It wasn't loud. It wasn't even brave. But it was real. For the first time in months, maybe years, I admitted the truth. This version of me can't take me where I want to go. And that meant I had to change. Not the world, not my phone, not the algorithm, me. But here's the thing no one tells you about change. You won't feel ready. You won't wake up one day with superhero motivation. You just get tired of the excuses, the guilt, the loop. And sometimes, being tired becomes the fuel you need to finally move. I didn't wait for confidence. I moved with fear still in my chest. The first thing I did was simple. I took 1 hour. Just one. 1 hour a day where I didn't allow distractions. No phone. No tabs. No background noise. Just me, a notebook, and silence. I called it my hour of war. Because it was a war, between the version of me that wanted to escape and the version of me that wanted to build something real. That hour was awkward at first. I sat there not knowing what to do. My brain was addicted to stimulation, checking, scrolling, switching. But I kept showing up. I wrote messy thoughts, unfinished ideas, random goals. And slowly, I started to hear my own voice again. Here's what I learned during that first week of trying to take my time back. You don't need more time. You need more intention. Your phone is not evil, but it is stronger than your willpower. One focused hour is more powerful than 6 distracted ones. You can't fix your life in a day, but you can shift your direction. But change also means discomfort. I missed the instant hits of dopamine from social media. I felt restless. My brain begged for noise. And every 5 minutes, I wanted to give up and go back to the loop. But I kept asking myself one question. Do I want comfort right now, or pride tonight? That question became my compass. And every time I chose pride over comfort, something inside me grew stronger. Not discipline. Not motivation. Self-respect. I was learning to show up for myself, even when it didn't feel good yet. And over time, that became the new addiction, showing up. I didn't become perfect. I still messed up. But now, I had a reason to keep going. Because if I didn't change my days, I wouldn't change my life. And deep down, I knew I was meant for more than background noise and broken routines. Here's what they don't tell you about changing your life. It doesn't feel empowering at first. It feels stupid, annoying, exhausting. You'll try to build new habits, and your brain will scream, why bother? Because the old habits? They're comfortable. They're easy. They've been with you for years. That first week of trying to show up, even for just an hour, was like dragging myself through wet cement. Every excuse in the book showed up, dressed in perfect logic. You need to rest. You don't feel inspired today. You can just try again tomorrow. Excuses are sneaky. They wear the mask of kindness, of self-care, of rational thinking. But underneath? They're fear. They're self-doubt. They're resistance in disguise. And if you don't learn to hear them for what they are, you'll fall for them, every time. I failed. A lot. Some days I didn't even sit down for my hour of war. Other days I sat down, stared at the wall, and felt nothing. And then came the guilt. See? You'll never stick to anything. This is just who you are. But here's where the game changed. Instead of giving in, I observed the excuses. I started writing them down. Line by line. Every thought that told me to quit, every reasonable reason to stop. I didn't argue with them. I just exposed them. And the more I looked at them, the weaker they became. Because resistance loses power when it's named. Here's what I discovered. Excuses thrive in silence. Say them out loud, and they shrink. Motivation is a myth. The real fuel is commitment, not feelings. Discipline isn't a mood. It's a decision made ahead of time. If it's hard, that doesn't mean it's wrong, it means it's working. So I started building tiny systems to protect myself from myself. I put my phone in another room, always. I used timers, 25 minutes of focus, 5-minute breaks. I created a rule, never break the chain 2 days in a row. I tracked my effort, not my results, because showing up mattered more. And slowly, something incredible happened. The voice that said, "You're not disciplined," was replaced by a whisper that said, "You're doing it." That whisper turned into a voice. Then a belief. And then, a truth. You don't need to feel like it. You just need to decide to honor your future self. More than you worship the comfort of the present moment. I hit a wall. I was tired of the cycle, of trying, failing, trying again. I didn't want another morning full of, maybe todays, and evenings filled with regret. I wanted clarity. A map. A way to break free from my old default mode. And just when I was ready to give up again, I stumbled across something that felt like a lifeline. It wasn't a person, not at first. It was a podcast. Some guy talking about how he reclaimed his focus using systems, not motivation. That phrase hit me like a punch. Systems, not motivation. Because up until that point, I'd been chasing energy, emotion, inspiration. And none of those things showed up when I needed them most. This guy didn't sound superhuman. He was normal, just like me. He talked about how he used to waste his entire day bouncing from task to task. But what saved him wasn't willpower, it was building rules that made success automatic. Rules that removed thinking. Rules that removed options. Because when you leave yourself options, you leave room for failure. That podcast led me down a rabbit hole. Books. Interviews. People who weren't disciplined by nature, but structured by design. They built lives that supported their goals, instead of relying on bursts of will. And I realized, I didn't need to be more disciplined. I needed better systems. So I stopped trying to change my personality, and started changing my environment. That became my new mission, and I started small. Step 1, I designed a distraction-free zone. 1 room. 1 chair. 1 table. No phone. No notifications. Just work. Step 2, I created time blocks. I chose 3 daily, focus windows, 1 in the morning, 1 midday, 1 at night. 30 minutes to 1 hour each. No multitasking allowed. Step 3, I pre-committed my schedule. The night before I wrote down exactly what I'd do and when, no guessing. But here's the secret sauce, I paired those systems with triggers. Things that would pull me into action, even when I didn't feel like it. These were my first 5 triggers. 1, a playlist I only used when working. 2, a specific mug I used during deep work hours. 3. Sitting in one dedicated chair for focus only. 4. Using a countdown timer to signal, start now. 5. Saying out loud, you only need to do the first 5 minutes. The results? Not overnight magic, but real momentum. I didn't need to fight my feelings. I built a system that carried me when I was tired. Because systems don't care if you're in a good mood. They don't ask, are you motivated? They just say, it's time. That's what a mentor, even one you never meet, can do. They reframe everything. They show you that discipline isn't a character trait. It's a strategy. A learned behavior. And the best part? Anyone can learn it. And with systems came confidence. Because when I saw myself showing up again and again, even when I didn't feel like it, even when the dopamine of my phone called to me, even when the excuses showed up, I knew something had changed. I wasn't trying to be perfect. I was trying to be consistent. And that difference? It changed the game. Because perfect falls apart the moment things go wrong. But consistent keeps going anyway. Here's the truth I wish I knew earlier. You don't rise to your goals. You fall to your systems. The less you trust your emotions, the more you must trust your plan. A strong system makes bad days irrelevant. Motivation is a spark. Systems are the fire that stays lit. Now that I had some systems, I felt more in control, but I was still fragile. Any bad day, rough morning, or mental fog could knock me right back into old patterns. So I knew I had to do something different this time. Not chase massive change, but chase tiny wins. The idea was simple: if I could just stack one win each day, I could begin to trust myself again. Because when you lose time for months or years, you don't just lose productivity, you lose belief. And rebuilding that belief? It starts with doing what you say you'll do. So I created what I now call my minimum daily win. It was the smallest version of progress I'd accept on a bad day. Not ideal. Not impressive. But enough to say, I showed up today. Here's what that looked like. 5 minutes of focused reading, even if I didn't finish a chapter. Writing one paragraph for a project or idea. Sitting in silence for 10 minutes, just to hear my own thoughts. Planning the next day on paper, even if I didn't finish today well. It sounds small, but it changed everything. Because now, instead of spiraling into guilt after a bad day, I had proof that I could still move forward. And the truth is, success isn't built on perfect days. It's built on not quitting during the imperfect ones. I also started using what I call the rule of firsts. It's one of the simplest focus hacks I've ever used, and it works every time. It goes like this. The first thing I do today must serve my future. No matter how the rest of the day goes, the first 10 minutes must move me forward. I stopped starting my day with my phone, or emails, or noise. Instead, I asked, what action will build momentum? And I did that, before anything else. Writing. Reading. Planning. Deep breathing. Something that said to my brain, today, we're in control. And then there's the 5-minute momentum hack. Here's how it works. When I didn't feel like doing anything, I'd set a 5-minute timer. I'd tell myself, just start. If it sucks, you can stop. And 95% of the time? Once I started, I didn't want to stop. Why? Because starting is always the hardest part. Your brain resists discomfort, but only until you begin. After that, your nervous system adapts. You're in. You're flowing. The hardest moment passes in silence. But only if you dare to push through it. Let me break down the tools I use daily during this phase. The minimum win. Always finish one small thing, no matter what. Rule of firsts. Begin every day with something that builds, not something that consumes. 5-minute start. Trick your brain. Begin before it has time to argue. Visual proof. I used a wall calendar and marked every day I showed up, building a chain of wins. Accountability partner. I messaged a friend once a day, just saying what I planned to do, and what I actually did. These weren't complicated strategies. But they worked. Because they lowered the resistance. They helped me move even when I didn't want to. And that movement created momentum. And momentum is how belief returns. There's a myth that high performers always feel motivated. But here's the truth I learned. Motivation follows action, not the other way around. Your brain rewards what you repeat, not what you intend. One tiny win a day beats 0 big wins every time. After 10 days of these small habits, something wild happened. I woke up and without thinking started my focus hour. No resistance. No drama. Just action. That was the first time I felt like I was truly back in the driver's seat. It wasn't about being productive, it was about being present. In my own life. In my own mind. In my own future. And that's when I realized I didn't need more time. I just needed to stop throwing it away. By now, I had some momentum. Small wins. Better focus. A bit of belief returning. But I still had one big problem. My days were unpredictable and messy. I'd get in a good groove, then the afternoon would collapse into distraction. So I knew I had to go beyond hacks. I needed a real structure, a toolkit I could trust. What I built next became the foundation of everything. Not just a morning routine, but a life system. It turned 6 wasted hours a day into structured, intentional time. And I'm going to walk you through exactly what I did, step by step. Let's start with the power block schedule. I stopped thinking in to-do lists and started thinking in time blocks. Each day was split into 4 core blocks. Focus block, 60 to 90 minutes for deep work, creative, hard, no distractions. Flex block, 90 minutes for calls, emails, errands, or admin tasks. Freedom block, time set aside for play, walks, or learning. Recovery block, the wind down, no work, no stress, total disconnection. Most people try to squeeze their lives around their work. I flipped it. I designed my work around my life. This gave me space to breathe, to create, and to rest without guilt. Now let's talk tools. These were non-negotiables for me. A daily planner, physical or digital, every night, I'd preview tomorrow. The Pomodoro timer, 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off. 4 rounds equals 1 win. Noise-canceling headphones, help me drop into focus mode. Distraction blockers, apps like Freedom or Cold Turkey saved my brain. A whiteboard or habit tracker, so I could see the streak build. But none of it worked unless I did this one thing. Create a ritual around starting. I had to train my brain to recognize, now it's time to focus. So I used the same playlist, same mug, same chair, same deep breath before beginning. That ritual flipped the switch in my mind from wandering to working. One of the most powerful things I added? Weekly reflection. Every Sunday, I sat down and asked, what did I do well this week? What felt hard or off? What will I change next week? That 20-minute check-in gave me clarity and self-awareness. And with it came growth. Because if you don't review, you repeat. This transformation didn't happen overnight. But within 30 days, I'd reclaimed almost 40 hours of wasted time each week. And I didn't feel exhausted. I felt energized. Because I wasn't scattered anymore. I was aligned. I started sleeping better. Feeling clearer. Laughing more. I finally had time to work on things that mattered to me. Not just chores. Not just obligations. But dreams. And all of it, came from this structure. Here's what I want you to take away. If you control your start, you'll control your momentum. Time blocks protect your brain from overwhelm. Rituals reduce resistance. Systems free your creativity, they don't cage it. I thought I had everything figured out. My new routines were working. I was winning the mornings. I was focused, energized, and starting to feel proud again. But I didn't realize that change isn't linear. Progress has shadows. It started small. One late night. One skipped power block. One I'll catch up tomorrow. And just like that, the cracks widened. A family issue pulled me into chaos. Then a deadline hit harder than expected. Then came burnout. Not from too much work. But from trying to be perfect. From thinking I had to always be on. And I snapped. For 2 days, I ghosted everyone. No routines. No focus. Just YouTube, scrolling, and guilt. I felt like I'd lost all the progress I made. Like I'd let my old self win again. But here's the truth I learned. Relapse isn't failure. It's feedback. I sat in the middle of that breakdown. And for once, I didn't try to run from it. I studied it. I asked, what am I actually feeling here? Turns out, it wasn't laziness. It was pressure. I was exhausted from pretending everything was under control. I was trying so hard to prove I had changed. That I forgot why I wanted change in the first place. I didn't want to be a robot. I wanted to be free. Free from distraction, yes. But also free from guilt, free from pressure, free to be human. That breakdown showed me something powerful. Systems need space for grace. You need a plan, yes. But you also need a buffer. A bounce-back strategy. When things collapse. So I built one. Step 1: pause. Don't panic. Don't rush back. Just breathe. Name what's happening, out loud. That breaks the shame spiral. Step 2: reflect. Ask, what triggered this? What do I need less of? And more importantly, what do I need more of? Step 3: recommit. Don't try to fix everything. Just one block. One win. Today. Step 4: forgive. Seriously. Speak it. I forgive myself for falling off. I'm back now. That sentence changed my life. I say it weekly. Recovery isn't weak. It's wisdom. Every hero gets knocked down. What makes them heroes isn't that they never fall. It's that they get up and bring back a lesson. That lesson? We are not machines. We are cycles. Rhythms. And success isn't about never breaking, it's about bouncing. By learning how to crash well. I stopped being afraid of crashing. And when the fear disappeared, I moved faster, lighter, braver. I used to think change meant building better habits. Waking up earlier. Cutting distractions. Making to-do lists. But all of that still came from the mindset of someone trying. And people who are trying still leave the door open for quitting. Everything changed the day I stopped trying to become productive and started identifying as a productive person. That sounds like wordplay, but it's not. Your brain doesn't act on goals. It acts on identity. And mine had to evolve. You don't need to try to stop wasting time. You need to believe, deeply. I'm not someone who wastes time. I wrote that sentence on my wall. I repeated it every morning. Even on days I didn't believe it yet. I said it until it felt true. Because when you identify as someone who values time, your brain starts doing something wild. It filters your choices before they happen. The scroll doesn't feel tempting anymore. The random YouTube click becomes a violation, not a break. You don't need more motivation. You need alignment. If you're trying to become something you don't believe you are, your brain will sabotage every effort. But if your identity supports the behavior, it becomes automatic, like brushing your teeth. Here's the trick I used. I wrote down 3 statements I wanted to become true. I am someone who respects time. I create, I don't consume. I control my days, not the other way around. Then I lived as if they were already facts. And no, I didn't believe them on day 1. But every power block I completed, every moment I turned off my phone, every time I made a decision on purpose, that became proof. My brain needed evidence. I gave it evidence. There's a moment where this clicks. Where you no longer say, I should be more productive. But instead, that's not what I do anymore. That shift changed everything for me. Not because I was perfect, but because I finally had an internal compass. This identity shift made it easier to say no. Easier to step away. Easier to be bored, without filling the gap with dopamine. Because bored people scroll. But focused people pause. I was learning to pause, on purpose. And yeah, people around me noticed. You've changed. You're so focused. How are you doing all this? At first I laughed it off. But inside I knew. I wasn't doing something new. I had become someone else. And that's harder to break. Let me be clear, I still fall. I still get tired, distracted, pulled into rabbit holes. But now when I do, I feel out of character. That's powerful. Falling off feels wrong now, not natural. That means the identity shift is real. Once I shifted my identity, something surprising happened. Discipline stopped feeling like a burden. It stopped being a chore or a fight. Instead, it became freedom. I discovered that saying no, to distractions, to time wasting, to easy comfort, was actually me choosing what I valued most. Before, discipline felt like prison bars. Like I was chained to my to-do list, stuck in a grind I didn't enjoy. But when I became the kind of person who respects time, saying no became a way to protect myself. It was like building a fence around my energy, not to trap me, but to keep me safe. Every time I refused a distraction, I wasn't losing something. I was gaining something: clarity, space, peace of mind, and the chance to create. Discipline became an act of love, love for my dreams, my future, my sanity. I realized that freedom isn't the absence of rules. It's the presence of boundaries that let you flourish. I started practicing micro-no's, little decisions that kept me on track all day long. Things like, no checking my phone for the first hour after waking, no social media during work blocks, no multitasking when I wanted focus. These small no's added up to huge wins. The best part? Discipline created momentum. Each yes to what mattered made it easier to say no to what didn't. And that snowball made the hard days easier to face. Because the more I protected my time, the more energy and joy I had for the things I loved. I also learned a trick that helped me handle temptation: the if-then plan. For example, if I feel like checking Instagram during work, then I'll take a deep breath and write down the urge instead. This simple pause helped break the automatic scroll reflex and gave me control back. Another shift was changing my language from should to want. Instead of saying, I should focus, I told myself, I want to focus because this moves me closer to my goals. That subtle switch made discipline feel like a choice, not a command. Discipline, I found, isn't about willpower alone. It's about knowing why you care enough to keep going. When your reason is strong, your actions follow. And your no's become your greatest power. Having discipline is one thing, but staying sharp all day takes energy. Early on, I realized my biggest enemy wasn't time, it was fatigue. No matter how hard I tried to focus, my brain would crash by afternoon. So I had to learn how to fuel my mind and body the right way. First, I tackled sleep, the foundation. I set a bedtime ritual: no screens 30 minutes before sleep, blackout curtains, and a cool room. It wasn't perfect at first. I still struggled to fall asleep. But consistency helped me train my body's clock. Better sleep gave me more energy, clearer thinking, and less brain fog. Next came hydration. Sounds simple, but I wasn't drinking nearly enough water during the day. Even mild dehydration kills focus and memory. So I started carrying a water bottle everywhere. If you're tired or distracted, ask yourself, have I drunk enough water? Nutrition mattered too. I swapped heavy carbs and sugary snacks for protein, nuts, fruits, and veggies. Eating smaller meals more often helped avoid that afternoon slump. I also experimented with timing caffeine, having coffee earlier, not late. This kept me alert without wrecking my sleep. Movement was a game changer. Sitting for hours drains energy. I started taking short walks, stretching, or doing quick workouts between focus blocks. These breaks refreshed my mind and boosted circulation. Even 5 minutes made a difference. Finally, I practiced mindful breathing and meditation. Just 5 minutes of focused breathing lowered stress and calmed my racing thoughts. This made it easier to return to work with a clear mind. All these habits didn't happen overnight. I added one at a time, testing what worked. My goal wasn't perfection, it was progress. And the combined effect was massive. I had more stamina for my power blocks and more patience for tough tasks. When your body and mind feel fueled, focus doesn't feel like a fight. It feels like flow. And that flow became addictive. I didn't just reclaim my time, I reclaimed my energy to use it well. Even with routines, systems, and energy hacks, some days felt heavy. Days when my brain begged for a break. Days when motivation dipped low. I learned that motivation is a feeling, and feelings come and go. But what if you could keep your fire burning even when motivation fades? The first thing I realized was that motivation doesn't just appear. You have to create it, like lighting a match in the dark. So I developed small rituals to spark my energy anytime I felt stuck. One ritual was visualization. Before I started working, I closed my eyes and imagined how it'd feel to finish my tasks. Not just the end result, but the pride, the relief, the freedom. Imagining my future self gave me a push in the present moment. Another tool was music. I found playlists that energized me or helped me focus. Sometimes it was upbeat to boost mood. Sometimes calm to ease anxiety. Music became a quick reset button for my brain. I also kept a motivation journal. Each day, I wrote one reason why my work mattered. One small win. One progress note. On tough days, I'd read these entries to remind myself why I started. But the biggest breakthrough was learning to embrace discomfort. I stopped waiting to feel motivated before starting. I accepted that discomfort is part of growth, and often the signal I'm moving in the right direction. That's when I adopted my mantra. Do it scared, do it tired, do it anyway. Because waiting for perfect feelings is a trap. Action creates motivation, not the other way around. I also learned to celebrate small victories. Not just big wins, but every 25-minute focus session completed. Every no to distraction. Every time I showed up even if I felt like quitting. Those tiny moments built a mountain of confidence. Finally, I surrounded myself with support. I joined communities of like-minded people. People who understood the struggle and cheered each other on. Having that connection made the journey less lonely. So here's the truth: motivation isn't a magic spark. It's a muscle you build through habits, mindset, and community. And the good news? Anyone can build it. When I first started focusing on my time, I thought it was just about work. But the changes didn't stop there. Reclaiming those 6 hours spilled over into every part of my life, and it surprised me. My relationships improved. When I wasn't stressed about wasted time, I was more present with friends and family. I stopped scrolling during conversations. I started listening, really listening, and that made connections deeper and richer. My health got better too. With more energy and better routines, I exercised more regularly. I cooked healthier meals instead of grabbing junk food on the go. I even slept better because my mind was calmer at night. Creativity blossomed. I found time for hobbies I'd abandoned: writing, drawing, even learning new skills. Because when you manage your time well, you unlock mental space for joy and growth. I felt more confident. Not because I was perfect, but because I'd proven to myself I could change. Every day I chose focus over distraction. I was rewriting my story. That confidence gave me courage. I started saying no to things that drained me. I set boundaries with work and people. I stopped overcommitting and honored my limits. And guess what? The world didn't stop spinning when I said no. In fact, saying no made my yes moments more meaningful. The biggest lesson? Time is a mirror for your values. How you spend your time shows what you really care about. When you choose your time wisely, you choose your life wisely. This ripple effect is why the struggle to reclaim time is worth it. It's not just about productivity. It's about living fully, intentionally, and with purpose. This journey started with 6 wasted hours every day, hours lost to distraction, scrolling, and endless tomorrows. But it ended with something far greater than reclaimed time. It ended with a new way of seeing myself and my life. I learned that time isn't just minutes on a clock. It's your most precious resource, your power, your chance to build the life you want. When you waste time, you're giving away pieces of your future. But when you guard your time, you guard your dreams. This isn't about being perfect or rigid. It's about being intentional and kind with yourself. About choosing your future self over temporary comfort. About building a life where focus and freedom coexist. The hero's journey isn't just for stories. It's for anyone willing to face resistance, to fail, to rise again. You are that hero. You have the power to stop wasting hours and start building something real. Remember these truths. Systems save you when motivation fails. Tiny wins build unbreakable momentum. Identity shapes your actions far more than willpower. Discipline is freedom, not a cage. Bounce backs aren't failures, they're part of growth. And most importantly, your time is your choice. Every moment you decide how to spend it. So choose wisely. Choose courage over comfort. Choose growth over distraction. Your future self is waiting. Will you show up for them? Will you protect their time, their dreams, their life? I believe you will. Because you've already taken the first step by watching this. By listening. By deciding to change. Now, it's your turn to take action. Not someday, not tomorrow. Today. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If this story helped you, subscribe and share it with someone who needs it. Together, we can turn wasted hours into unstoppable power. Your time is your power. Use it well.